The internet is flooded with magnificent images of Norway's fjords, lakes, and trekking tourists. The images feature red wooden cabins and clear blue water. At first glance, it seems like paradise, but not everything is sunshine and rainbows. In fact, there's literally no sunshine and rainbows for days. Hang tight, because we're telling you all about the dark side of living in Norway. Norway is renowned for having one of the highest standards of life in the world, offering extensive social benefits and being one of the happiest nations. But while it's a great place with a lot of positive aspects, it's crucial that we don't turn a blind eye to all the not-so-great things. People are drawn to Norway for a variety of reasons, including its breathtaking scenery, quality of life, and its benefits. But what about the high cost of living, the challenges associated with relocation, and the huge culture shock? According to a survey by Oslo Metropolitan University, 30,000 foreigners leave Norway each year, and out of the 53 nations in the Expat Insider Index, Norway came in at number 52. The index aimed to find out the ease with which expats live in other countries, and the study was done by more than 12,000 expatriates from 53 different nations. Norway is not only rated second last globally, but also is last among the Nordic nations. In the Personal Finance Index, it ranks second to last, just ahead of New Zealand. That's gotta mean something, right? First things first, the procedure for obtaining a Norwegian resident permit will probably make you cry. Depending on where you're from and under what grounds you are applying for a residency permit, there are various rules and regulations to take into account. Norway is a member of the EEA, making the process simpler if you're from an EU or EEA country, as it enables unrestricted cross-border movement of people and labor. But if you're from anywhere else, good luck. You need to go through the Foreign Office's red tape to get a residency permit for visits longer than 3 months. But before registering with the police, make sure of all the required paperwork. To get a national identity number, you must also register your move to Norway. Although it may not seem complex, this must be done with a certain amount of time, so you might not be able to schedule an appointment at a time that is convenient for you. Plus, the many offices take a while to process your application, and being unable to speak the language is one of the main obstacles for foreigners looking to work in Norway. The second hurdle is finding a job as a skilled worker. Oh, and you can't just accept any type of employment in Norway as a skilled worker. To be eligible for a work visa, the position you're offered must be full-time. Plus, the pay you receive cannot be less than what is typical in Norway. Now, enough about work, let's talk about play. Even if you think yourself as a social and outgoing person, finding friends in Norway might be quite the task. Some people claim that Norwegians are reclusive, difficult to approach, and even mean. While this is untrue, Norwegians tend to be more reserved in public and social settings, and less extroverted among people they don't know. For instance, it's unusual for a Norwegian to strike up a conversation with a complete stranger on a bus or on a train. Or, if there are any open seats, sitting next to someone is a total no-no. So it can be challenging to fit in with a Norwegian group because they prefer to develop smaller, close-knit friendship circles. However, if you get to know them, don't be surprised if a Norwegian becomes one of your closest friends. Even foreigners who consider themselves outgoing and extroverted may struggle greatly to make new friends here because Norwegians are generally reluctant to approach strangers in social situations. Social events are the most typical way to make friends, and they're essentially the only settings where Norwegians are receptive to meeting new people. Now, let's get to the elephant in the room. Norway is incredibly pricey. Although somewhat of a cliche, it's also the truth. In comparison to most other countries, Norway is quite expensive. The cost of living varies according to your lifestyle, obviously, but it generally is on the higher end. Food, housing, and other necessities can be reasonably inexpensive if you prepare your meals at home like the majority of Norwegians do. You've been warned. Non-essential activities like dining out, drinking in a bar, visiting a zoo, using a taxi, and other such activities are often very expensive. Now, even though Norway has a high cost of living, it's still important to remember that anything involving cars is more expensive than you can possibly think, literally. Not only are the majority of non-EV cars heavily taxed to the point that they're insanely expensive, but petrol and diesel are also crazily priced and subject to enormous taxes. The combination of hefty auto insurance premiums and numerous tolls on the roads makes driving for a big spend. Now let's talk about the weather. It's literally the dark side of living there. The cold is something that most people can adapt to, but the darkness is another story. Even in the southeast of Norway, the sun only rises for 3 to 5 hours each day in the winter. It's dark when you go for work, and it's dark when you come home from work, which can be mentally taxing. The worst part is, it gets darker the further north you go. There are a specific amount of polar nights when you cross the polar circle. The sun never rises during polar nights, a phenomenon where the darkness lasts longer than 24 hours. So that means you won't see the sun for a few days, and it will be as gloomy as night all day. Most Norwegian cities lack polar nights, and Troms, with its 49 polar nights annually, is the largest city with polar nights. Some cities even go more than 100 days without seeing the sun. Now, because of that, winter depression affects a lot of people. It gradually goes away as the days become longer and the sun is visible for a few more hours each day. But just be aware of this phenomenon, because when there is so much darkness for a prolonged time, even those who have never suffered normal depression may just develop it. The only silver lining to the darkness, or should I say green lining, is that it allows you to see those glorious northern lights, or aurora borealis. Also, you'll need to become accustomed to dressing appropriately for the weather, because otherwise, you'll find out the hard way just how chilly houses can get when it's negative 20 degrees outdoors. Also, the weather can be quite erratic, particularly in the fall and in the spring. It's never safe to leave the house without a backup plan, because the weather might quickly turn from pleasant and warm to chilly and rainy. Okay, we talked about the weather and the high cost of living, so now let's talk about taxes. Yes, taxes are pretty high, but there are also many advantages to paying them. We're talking about free education, paid parental leave, paid sick leave, public hospitals, and other social benefits that are all supported by the government. So while everyone raves about the benefits given to citizens in Norway, it does come at a high price. Most people find it very difficult to say goodbye to such a huge sum of money, especially if they're used to paying much lower taxes in their home countries. Along with a painfully high income tax of up to 45%, you're also required to pay VAT on all of your purchases. Thankfully, the majority of us don't need to set aside money to pay taxes, because the tax is typically taken out of your salary before it even appears on your bank account. So if I don't see it, it won't hurt that much, eh? Having said that, business owners will be responsible for handling this on their own, so find out how it works for you. Oh, and by the way, these guys are pretty nationalistic, and maybe even borderline ethnocentric. The US Pew Research Center conducted a global poll on nationalism in 2018, and the statement, "Our people are not perfect, but we have a superior culture than others," was put to the test among citizens of 15 European nations. Guess what? Only in Norway did the majority of survey participants agree that their culture is superior. The statement was endorsed by at least 58% of Norwegians. So yeah, people of color and minority groups might experience microaggressions and even racial profiling. But the good thing is that Norway has some of the lowest levels of corruption in the world. It was ranked 4th least corrupt among 180 nations in Transparency International's 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index. That's after they were rated as the most corrupt nation in Scandinavia in 2017, after several major Norwegian corporations, in which the state government holds sizable holdings, were accused of corruption. So yes, they've made some major changes since then. The Norwegian School of Economics stated in research that corruption in Norway is often present only at the municipal level, but things have gotten a lot better lately. Truth is, it's actually a very safe place with a low incidence of serious crimes, which is what attracts most people. At at least 80% of people who call Oslo home agree that it's a safe place to live. Not many major capital cities in the world can say that. Oslo also had the lowest crime rate in the world in 2021, with 38.71 crimes committed per 1,000 people. Plus, Norway is listed as the 17th safest country in the world in 2022 by the World Population Review. You see, Norway is a fantastic country, but coming here comes with its own set of pros and cons. Most of all, the bureaucracy involved in setting up your new life in Norway can be difficult, and that's on top of the restrictions on who can even migrate here in the first place. So what's your take on living in Norway? Let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more eye-opening videos. See you next time.